Hello everyone and welcome back to the Astronomical Show by Sarah for Astronomy 201. Today I'll be reporting on the collapse of the Arecibo telescope. So you may be wondering, what is the Arecibo telescope? The Arecibo telescope is actually located in Barrio Esperanza, Arecibo, Puerto Rico, but not to be mistaken by its ownership, which is actually by the United States National Science Foundation, also known as the NSF. The telescope itself has a diameter of 305 meters and was built in a conveniently natural sinkhole. Until 2016, it was actually also known as the largest single aperture telescope until China built their FAST telescope, which stands for the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope. The telescope was built in 1963 and was built for a few main purposes, the first of which is called radio astronomy. Radio astronomy is actually when astronomers use the telescope to actually observe radio waves being emitted from several objects within space, including objects such as stars, planets, and galaxies, along with many other objects in space. By observing the radio waves of a star, we can actually identify a lot of information, for example, the life of a star, such as its beginning or end, along with how galaxies were formed. To summarize, radio astronomy is really critical to astronomers because it gives them the ability to not only observe objects within space, but to also understand their origin, structure, composition, as well as movement. So you may be wondering, how did the Arecibo use such a powerful tool? Well, in 1974, astronomers decided to send out something that was called the Arecibo message as an attempt to communicate with extraterrestrial life within space. So they actually used radio astronomy to actually transmit this so-called Arecibo message towards a globular cluster called Messier 13, which is approximately 25,000 light years away from us. And no, we did not get a response, but without radio astronomy, we would not even have had the chance to. The next purpose the Arecibo telescope is used for is called radar astronomy. Radar astronomy, although sounding very similar to radio astronomy, is different in that it involves much more action from the astronomer themselves to actually observe objects within space. It involves the act of actually reflecting microwaves off of objects within space. And through further analysis, astronomers can actually identify the distance from the object reflecting the wave. Additionally, astronomers can also predict the orbit of certain objects. In 1981, the Arecibo telescope actually mapped out the surface of Venus, and then in 1994, it actually mapped out the distribution of polar ice on Mercury. Another purpose that the telescope actually serves is called atmospheric science. It is actually the study of better understanding Earth's atmosphere as well as the various physical processes that occur within Earth's atmosphere. The study actually helps us as humanity to make better predictions regarding climate change, as well as our weather. And therefore, through the study, we're able to become better prepared for the future as well as highlight the urgency of climate change during our current state. The Arecibo radar actually holds the ability to measure behaviors that occur within the ionosphere, which is actually the upper part of Earth's atmosphere. And through its radar, the Arecibo telescope has actually made several contributions to the space of atmospheric science. For example, the discovery in 1996 of an ionized helium layer within our ionosphere, or in 2006 where they identified a tropical storm's impact on the ionosphere, creating perturbations. In addition to the purposes mentioned, the Arecibo telescope has actually been involved in many programs for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So you might be thinking, if the Arecibo telescope made so many contributions and discoveries, why did it collapse and why didn't they revive it? Well, it first started off in 2006 where the NSF actually cut the funding from $10.5 million to $4 million. In addition, they actually recommended the observatory to actually shut down if they were unable to find the remaining funding. Despite the pushback that the NSF received for cutting their funding as well as suggesting to decommission the observatory, they actually still continued to reduce the funding over the years more and more. In addition to the financial strains that the Arecibo experienced, in 2010 there were a lot of hurricanes and storms that actually caused damage to the telescope itself. The telescope did continue to live on until 2020 until a support cable actually fell on a dish, creating a 30-meter damage on the dish itself. The intention was actually to repair the damages, however, on November 7th, another support cable fell and the dish was partially shattered. After a lot of consultation, an engineering firm actually suggested that the damages were irreparable and to actually decommission the observatory itself. And finally, on December 1st, 2020, the wires on the support cable actually snapped, and the second main cable, along with several other supporting cables, actually failed. And this all led to the collapse of the receive structure as well as the wires onto the dish, which created the most damage the telescope has ever experienced. The collapse of the Arecibo telescope will not be forgotten by many scientists, academics, and astronomers around the world, as the telescope has a unique capability to not only identify and observe objects within space, such as galaxies, stars, asteroids, planets, but also its ability to map out various objects within space, as well well as better understand the atmosphere around it. This telescope has played a pivotal role in understanding our universe. And so with the collapse of the Arecibo telescope, it actually brings down a loss of opportunities for discoveries and better understanding our universe. Despite the grief felt by a lot of scientists in the world, a lot of the blame was actually shifted onto the NSF for continuously defunding the telescope, leading to a low maintenance of the telescope itself. And looking ahead, the Arecibo staff and researchers have actually delivered a white paper to the NSF proposing a $400 million investment into a new telescope that integrates modern technology into it. In their proposal, they also understood that the space could be more effectively used and instead be replaced with 1,000 small dishes, which is claimed to actually double the sensitivity of a single dish telescope, which hopefully will actually increase the sky coverage by 250%.